In today's video, I'm very excited to be presenting our first fall forecast. This is kind of our early thoughts for the September through November timeframe. Of course, there will probably be updates to this over the coming months as we approach September, but for now, this is our very early thoughts on the fall of 2025. We're going to be going over the temperatures, precipitation, and of course the overall forecast on my thoughts for this upcoming fall. Now, we did make a video going over the analogs, so this is partially based on history, some of the analog years that I think fit very well for this upcoming, summer, fall, winter time period, and also based on some model guidance as well. So it's kind of a perfect mix of both. It's worth noting that I'm on a cruise right now, so this is made a couple of days ahead of time, and we are filming a very awesome vlog, so be sure to check that out on the top right corner of your screen and the description and pinned comment down below. Subscribe to that vlog channel. It means a lot to me, and that vlog will be out very soon from our cruise. As we're taking a look at the temperature forecast here, first things first, we're going over the warmer than normal conditions. The west here is above normal from western Canada down through western Mexico. Of course, we're not really talking about that, but the western United States are above normal as far as temperatures. We have seen since late last fall into the winter a very dominant positive P&A pattern where the west has just been pretty overwhelmingly warm, and I do expect, based on history, based on the model guidance, that is going to trickle into this fall and this winter. Of course, we're not talking about the winter, but I do expect that as well. We can see that a lot of the warmth does extend down into the deeper south and Gulf states and up the southeast coast. So I do expect there to be a bit of a southeast ridge at play. I don't expect us to have a purely cold fall in the eastern states. We'll go over that in just a minute, but let's go over our second shade of warmer than normal conditions, and we can see that I'm even more confident in this for the very west coast. Again, that positive P&A is something that I think will be a part of the summer, fall, and winter that is upcoming. So that is definitely the one that I'm the most confident in as far as above normal temperatures. As we start to discuss the below normal temperatures here, we can see that I do expect a lot of the north central states, upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, even maybe some of the interior mid-Atlantic and northeast here, all included in the mostly below average temperatures. It's important to note that when we're talking about a seasonal forecast, we are talking about 3 whole months. So when we look back at that 90-day period, I do expect there to be something that resembles this. But that doesn't mean that every single day or every single week or even every single month is going to look exactly like this. I expect it to average out to look like this. So it may be the opposite of this in September, but then October and November go this way. That would be overall this as a result. Or vice versa. It might be September looks like this, then October switches up, but then November comes back to something like this. So it's important to note that I just expect the majority of fall to look this way. It should be pretty obvious, but some people maybe don't know that. We do have a second shade of blue as well. We're kind of just in the core of this for a lot of the north central, the Midwest, the Great Lakes, some of the lower Midwest, and into some of the Ohio Valley. I do have a stronger inkling that these areas will be cooler than normal. It was mostly this way during the fall of 2014, and 2014 to 2015 is overall a really strong analog this year. And this is pretty strongly resembling that. So that is part of it. Also, the model guidance has come in a little bit cooler for the east, not only for the fall, but through the summer as well. Into the late summer, we expect something pretty close to this at times. So I think that this is a really strong temperature forecast moving forward, looking towards the fall. With all that being said, let's kind of dive into the precipitation, though. I want to take a look here at some of the below average precipitation areas. And of course, we're expecting that positive P&A that doesn't only bring warmer conditions, it also brings higher pressure. So you can imagine there would be some high pressure systems hanging out around this western area. And that creates kind of a bubble that it's hard for storms to move into. So I do expect below average precipitation to prevail for most of the West for this upcoming fall. We do have a second shade of this where I am more confident in that for the Southwest. The reason that I am more confident for it further south than further north is because we will likely be leaning, we're going to be in a neutral ENSO, which means not a La Nina or El Nino. It's something in between. But I do expect us to lean a little closer to La Nina. There is also a decent chance that we're in a weak La Nina this upcoming fall and winter. So typically that would bring drier conditions to this southwest area, and that's why I have a little bit of a stronger feeling for this area to be drier as opposed to the northwest, where there's a little bit of a better chance that I'm perhaps wrong here with the drier condition forecast. Looking at the above normal precipitation areas, there is one up here for the plains, the Midwest, into the Great Lakes, where both the models all agree on this, and a lot of those analog years that I've been using throughout history that look similar to this one did feature a kind of blob of an area that did experience a little bit more storminess than what's typical. So I think that this is a really, really safe bet at this point, that at least somewhere in here, like the Northern Plains, Midwest, or Great Lakes, somewhere in that area is going to have a pretty active fall. Looking at the overall second shade here, we do see that I'm kind of circling it over the Midwest, which is kind of the middle point. Of course, we might need to slide this west or east or maybe even south or north here as we get a little bit closer to the fall, but I do feel like there will be an above average precipitation area up that way for the most part. We do have another area where I do expect above average precipitation, and that's mostly going to be for the southeast area, where we are making our hurricane season forecast, our first one as well, that'll be coming out in the following days. But I do expect that a lot of the Gulf and southeast area to be pretty favorable for tropical activity, and I do expect just an above average chance of some impacts for the southeast area this year. A lot of the most favorable tropical conditions are a lot closer to the United States this year as opposed to many others in recent memory. So I just have a strong feeling that there will be, whether it's tropical depression, tropical storm, or hurricane, I do expect some impacts that will bring more precipitation to this area. But of course, it's hard to predict that that will in fact happen or won't. It's just kind of a better chance. So that's why we're sticking with the first shade here as opposed to going deeper into a more confident shade of above average precipitation. Finally, let's go into that exciting overall forecast. It's always the prettiest map of the whole video. I love making these, love looking at them. Just beautiful. We could see out west, positive P&A. Talked about that throughout this video, and I do expect that type of pattern to just kind of dominate west of the Rockies. So warmer than normal, higher pressure, likely drier for most of these areas. That darker shade of red is just where we expect the most above average precipitation or temperatures and most below average precipitation. The fall snow up there in the Rockies and Cascades, I didn't really have enough room to write out my exact thoughts for that, so I just put fall snow for now. But really what my thoughts and what I wanted to write down is that there's probably going to be below average snowfall for this fall in the Cascades and Rockies, unless we get a little bit more of a La Nina pattern, which would of course be something that we need to see as we move a little bit closer to the fall. Perhaps it looks like we will get a La Nina. I will shift this forecast pretty big time for that northwest area, but if it is a neutral ENSO, in fact, I think it'll be average to below average as far as how much fall snow we see out there in the mountainous west. I do expect it to be relatively up and down in the south central states in regards to precipitation and temperatures. I think there will be cooler times. Wouldn't even be surprised if there's a big heat wave like in September or October down there. And then the precipitation, again, it's going to be pretty up and down dependent on all of those temperature patterns. So that's the best way to put it, just kind of up and down. To the north, we do expect big cold shots. Again, we do expect there to be predominantly a trough setting up in that central, kind of like central eastern area. Let's call it the Plains, Midwest, Great Lakes area. And this won't be present all the time, as we mentioned earlier, but I think that it will be a pretty big part of the upcoming fall. Of course, in the blue area there towards the Appalachian Mountain Range, it will be cold at times, especially later, of course. I do expect there to be some periods of below normal temperatures that do kind of take over for the entire east, and that likely comes a little bit later in the fall. A lot of our analog years started out a little bit warmer for September and October and then got cooler as November arrived. So I do expect that to mostly happen later on. Like in the northeast up there, cold and even some mountainous snowfall happening likely late October into November, depending on, the mountain height that you're at. Typically more of that happening in November than October, but it does happen in October. Then for the tropics, again, average tropics, I expect there to be an average amount of storms. On the whole Atlantic basin overall, I expect there to be a pretty average amount of activity, but a lot of that activity I do expect to originate a little bit closer to the United States than what's typical. and that could lead to above average impacts, even though there's average amounts of storms, if that makes sense. More of them overall would be impacting us than what's typical. With all that being said, again, this is the first fall forecast. I do expect to update this probably as we move closer to September, so be on the lookout for that. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe because we upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.